Yeah. I'm the business bishop, on a mission so divine. Coaching up the kingdom, watch your glory start to shine. Step into your purpose, let ambition be your guide. Grow your greatness high with faith right by your side. In the marketplace, calling me the angels sing. You cannot lose when faith meets the grind. Stand up, take action, leave the fear behind. With a vision so strong, there's no way you fail. The kingdom is your canvas, let your spirit sail. Bishop Wayne's in your corner, together we'll break through. Victory's a choice and today you're gonna choose. Living out your dreams, ain't no time for second best. Fulfill your destiny, put your limits to the test. Break those chains, rise up, find your flow. You cannot lose when faith meets the grind. Stand up, take action, leave the fear behind. With a vision so strong, there's no way you fail. The kingdom is your canvas, let your spirit sail. When the marketplace call it, in the marketplace call it. In your corner, together we'll break through. Victory's a choice, and today you're gonna choose. Living out your dreams, ain't no time for second best. Fulfill your destiny, put your limits to the test. Break those chains, rise up, find your flow. Find your flow. You cannot lose when faith meets the grind. Stand up, take action, leave the fear behind. With a vision so strong, there's no way you fail. The kingdom is your canvas, let your spirit sail. Rise up, business bishop, let your victory roar. Coaching for the kingdom, you're destined for more. Rise up, business bishop, let your victory roar. Coaching for the kingdom, you're destined for more.
Wow and wow, good people. Welcome, 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 welcome to another Kingdom Conversation with me, your host, Bishop Wayne Malcolm, the business bishop. And I am always excited and delighted to be a part of your life and legacy through this ministry. Those of you that are joining us live, I celebrate, salute, honor, and congratulate you, everyone that's catching the replays. Yeah, we absolutely honor you. And those of you that are catching the replays, I just want to thank you, thank you, thank you. Those of you that are joining me live, I want to thank you, thank you, thank you. Because together you're making this channel and its content more findable by more people. I'm convinced that there are millions of people around the world who are looking for kingdom concepts. Who are discovering the principles of the kingdom of God, and it has added a dimension of enthusiasm and energy and optimism. It's added a sense of purpose and destiny. And of course, I think they're looking. Now, we can help them define this channel and our content in several ways. Number one, subscribe to the channel. Number two, like the post, hit the like button. Number three, leave a comment under the post. And of course, share this with your family, friends, neighbors, and networks. And if you're joining me live, you know what to do with the chat box. Utilize the chat box as your virtual voice and send up testimonies. You can shout your amens. You can utilize emojis. Any emoji that expresses your emotion, please go ahead and let's make this as live and interactive as possible. I really do honor you and salute you. The channel is growing, the view numbers are growing, and that is literally thanks to you. You have encouraged me. You're letting me know that we're in the right place at the right time with the right message for the right people. And so I'm excited, and because of you, I continue. And look, this month we've been in a very, very epic series on the principles of the parables, or the principle of the parables, in which we have been looking at the way that God reveals and shares secrets with his intended audience while concealing them from the unintended audience. So that's fundamentally what a parable is. It's a cryptic story designed to reveal secrets to an intended audience whilst concealing them from the unintended audience. So the unintended audience is going to look at the story, derive a few morals of the story, and then just walk on by. But the intended audience is going to know that embedded, encoded, encrypted in the story are secrets and strategies and systems and principles and patterns and blueprints and templates that are going to give us an advantage in life and certainly in the marketplace. And so I'm excited about this particular series. It's somewhat of a magnificent obsession for me. And it has been many years since I've been reading the Bible through this particular lens, looking for the secrets, looking for the strategies, looking for the systems, looking for the principles and the patterns and the promises, looking for the blueprints and the templates that will give us that ultimate advantage of a partnership with God. So I'm excited for each and every one of you that's joining us in this series. And of course, we're coming to the close of it. I think there's only 2 more left. But we did something last week or in the last session that was pretty epic. We looked at the economic parables. We looked specifically at the end time parables. And I'm going to take us outside of the New Testament parables today to take us back to an Old Testament story that, again, I believe is an encrypted story designed to reveal secrets to an intended audience. And if you are that intended audience, why don't you just go ahead and let us know? Just say, I am the intended audience. Put that in the chat box. All right, if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's dive in. This is the Economic Parables Part 2. So in Part 1, we were looking at the end time parables in Matthew 25, looking at the parable of the virgins, the bridesmaids, the talents, and the sheep and the goats. We noticed that in each of the parables, there was an opportunity, and yet for different groups there were different outcomes. There were 2 groups with 1 opportunity, and the wise, the profitable, and the blessed experienced promotion, prosperity, protection, new levels, whereas the fools, the unprofitable, and the cursed, well, they were excluded and they fell backwards. So we made a decision last week that we are going to be among the wise, we're going to be among the profitable, and we're going to be among the blessed. Today, I'm going to take it to another level with Part 2 of the Economic Parables. All right. And I'm going to kick off with some context for the concept. I'm going to challenge you not to sell your sons. I'm going to talk about the pit to the pinnacle, and then I'm going to give several principles. So let's kind of dive in right now, because the specific story that we are looking at is found in 2 Kings chapter 4, verses 1 through 7. 2 Kings 4, verses 1 through 7, one of my favorite Old Testament stories. And if it's one of your favorite stories, you can say so in the chat box or in the comments after the post. But here it goes. Now the wife of one of the sons of the prophets cried to Elisha, Your servant, my husband, is dead, and you know that your servant feared the Lord. But the creditor has come to take my 2 children and to be his slaves. And Elisha said unto her, What shall I do for you? Tell me, what have you in the house? And she said, Your servant has nothing in the house except a jar of oil. And then he said, Go outside, borrow vessels from all your neighbors, empty vessels, and not too few. Then go in and shut the door behind yourself and your sons, and pour into all these vessels. And when one is full, set it aside. So she went from him and shut the door behind herself and her sons. And as she poured, they brought the vessels to her. When the vessels were full, she said to her son, Bring me another vessel. And he said to her, There is not another. Then the oil stopped flowing. She came and told the man of God, and he said, Go sell the oil and pay your debts, and you and your sons can live on the rest. Wow and wow. What a powerful reading. What a powerful reading. So, to give context for the concept that we're going to reveal tonight, this lesson is all about a financial turnaround, And it examines the story of a woman who went from the pit of poverty to the pinnacle of prosperity in 7 steps. Yep, I said it, in 7 steps. She went from the pit of poverty to the pinnacle of prosperity in 7 steps. And I'm wondering if there's anyone under the hearing of my voice that would like to transition with lightning speed from poverty to prosperity, or you know someone that could benefit from a lesson on how to move from the pit of poverty to the pinnacle of prosperity in 7 steps, then I want you to light up the chat box and let me know that it's either you or you know someone that would benefit from this. And if you know them and you've got their number, why don't you challenge them right now to come in and join? So the story is encrypted with secrets and strategies for financial deliverance. In the story, this woman's financial circumstances and status were dramatically changed in a short space of time, dramatically changed. And so this story has a lot to do with financial deliverance. And it's encrypted, it's encoded with secrets and strategies for financial deliverance. So first thing I want you to notice is that financial deliverance may start with a prayer. It may start with a prayer, okay? So first thing the woman did is she went to Elisha and she cried to Elisha, okay? So that was effectively her prayer. So financial deliverance may start with a prayer, but it always ends with a plan, because God answers prayers with a plan. My word, that is actually worth a glockenspiel. Yeah, God answers prayers with a plan. So your financial deliverance will no doubt start with a prayer that you may articulate consciously, a prayer that you may emanate subconsciously, requests that you make to people. They're bottled up and they become prayers. But if you are going to experience financial deliverance, then those prayers are going to have to become a plan, because God answers prayers with a plan. God is a God of strategy, and he saves us by strategy. So that if you ask God for help, if you ask God to save you, what he's fundamentally going to give you is a plan of salvation, a way of salvation. God is the one that makes a way, and it is our job to take the way, to go the way, to follow the way, so that it now becomes a partnership, and it's not just us sitting there with our hands folded, hoping that God will pick us up and reposition us somewhere else. Doesn't work like that. Doesn't work like that in this story. Doesn't work like that in any of the stories. So this is one of the secrets. A very, very important principle in the story is that financial deliverance starts with a prayer, but it always ends with a plan, because God answers prayers with a plan. Next thing I want you to notice as part of the context for this concept. So of course what we're going to do in this session is we're going to unveil the plan. But here's what we also want to notice is that this widow was in debt because she was financially decapitated when she lost her husband. So, of course, in the ancient world, economic activity and income generation was the role responsibility of males. So that without a male, you had no income, right? So income was generated by males, either by fathers, by sons, by husbands. And women at the time were economically dependent on a man for money. I didn't say that was right. I'm just saying that's what it was, okay? That's exactly what it was. That's how the world was. And sometimes it would serve us well to see the world the way it is rather than the way we think it should be. Because if you see the world the way it is, then you can take appropriate actions to make it the way you think it should be. So that's how the world was. So when her husband died, she was financially decapitated, and she now had to borrow in order to buy liabilities. She had to borrow in order to live. And of course, whenever you're borrowing to buy liabilities, you're borrowing to buy groceries, you're borrowing to buy clothes, you're borrowing to buy accessories, you're borrowing to buy things that will depreciate in value over time, then actually that is the formula for poverty, and it's the formula for poverty then, it's the formula for poverty now. That people who borrow to buy liabilities are going to end up financially decapitated. And we're seeing this in nations, we're seeing this in organizations, we're seeing this in families, and we're seeing this with individuals. Particularly in our day when lines of credit are available and we have all sorts of offers of buy now and pay later and credit cards and loans, to where a lot of people don't realize that actually borrowing may be a very good thing, is a good thing if you borrow to buy assets. That is, if you borrow to buy things that will appreciate in value over time, or if you borrow to buy things that are worth more than you paid for it, then what you're doing is you're buying assets. But if you borrow to buy liabilities, that's things that are worth less than you paid for them, or things that will depreciate in value over time, then that is the formula for poverty. And this will lead to financial decapitation. And a lot of people are financially decapitated right now, not only because they're stooped in debt, but because the very thing that was servicing that debt has now died. What do I mean by that? I mean that if you lose your job, right, that is a form of economic decapitation. And unfortunately, the factory school system sold us a life plan that relied on debt and job security. Okay, so in the factory school system, we are sold a life plan. I call it the 40-40-40 plan. It's where you're going to spend 40 hours a week for 40 years of your life serving the interests of an employer in exchange for about 40% of what you were earning when you retire. So that's the 40-40-40 plan. But in order to get along with that plan, okay, that whole entire plan is resting on two pillars. The two pillars are debt in the form of credit and job security so that you can service the debt. Now, if you lose your job, okay, what it means for most people is that if you lose your job, you also lose the house, you lose the car, you lose the accessories, you lose the furniture, you lose all the other things because it's the job that's servicing the debt. So if you lose your job, you become economically decapitated in the same way that this woman was. And so what I'm going to give to you today is a plan okay? And it's a spiritual plan, it's a kingdom plan, it's a biblical plan, it's a biblical blueprint, it's a template for exactly how you can experience financial turnaround or financial deliverance when you're in the pit of poverty or the worst condition. And of course, in every nation, the pit of poverty is a different place. Okay, so if you're in a developing nation, the pit of poverty means that you're entirely aid dependent. You're dependent on aid, on relief organizations, on NGOs, on charity. But in the developed world, the pit of poverty is when you are state dependent. So you're dependent on the state for food, for housing, for health care, for for basic necessities. You are dependent on the state. That's the pit of poverty in the developed world. And so I am reaching out to those people, okay, who are either aid dependent, state dependent, or you are job dependent, and there's the possibility that in the economic disruptions of the present age, you may become economically decapitated by losing the job, therefore unable to service the debt that you've accumulated. Well, God has a plan for people like you. I wish I had some help in here, because I think that that's great news. God has a plan for people who've been financially decapitated. God has a plan for people who are absolutely dependent on the generosity of others or on the state. And we're going to dive into that plan right now. The first thing, okay, before I give you the 7 steps, I want to admonish you, don't sell your sons. Don't sell your sons. In the story, the creditors had come to take her sons as full settlement for the debt. Okay, so one way that she could have gotten out of poverty would be to sell her sons. But listen to me, don't sell your sons. Like, if you're going to get out of poverty, don't sell your sons. Now, what do your sons represent? They represent your future, your legacy, your destiny, your hopes, and your dreams. Okay, so your children are the future. They are your future. But in this story, the metaphoric implications of sonship simply mean that actually, whether you know it or not, Miss Widow Woman, you have a future. Whether you know it or not, you have a legacy to preserve and protect. You have a destiny, and you can have hopes and dreams, and they are embodied in the form of your sons. So what the devil wants to do, okay, and what the creditors were coming after, and what the devil is coming after in our day, is your sons. That is your future, your legacy, your destiny, your hopes, and your dreams. Now, Jesus said the thief comes not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. What is he trying to steal? What is he trying to kill? What is he trying to destroy? Ultimately, he wants to steal your vision, okay, so that you can't see a future worth living for. You can't see a future worth fighting for. You can't see a future worth making sacrifices for. He wants to steal your vision. He wants to kill your dreams so that actually you are now living in a state of despair. Now, I'm speaking to someone right now who's like, you've given up, right? You've given up hoping. You've given up dreaming. You've lost your vision. You can't see a way forward. You look out, all you can see is darkness. You can't see light at the end of the tunnel. You are perplexed. And you don't see a future even available, let alone worth fighting for. Well, that future, that's your sons. Don't sell those sons. Don't give up your future, because when you sell your future in order to survive in the present, that is the formula for death. Okay, so that economic hardship is literally going to become the end of you if you quit dreaming, if you quit believing, if you quit hoping, if you quit knowing that you are here on purpose to serve a purpose, that your presence on this planet is not accidental or incidental. It is It is intentional, purposeful, meaningful, and strategic. You are a meaningful, purposeful, specific, strategic expression of the infinite intelligence of God who released you into this world on time, on location, in order to fulfill a purpose and to realize a destiny. And you have to keep believing that, because the moment you stop believing that, you have sold your sons. So don't sell your sons, okay? Instead, let's begin to follow the 7 steps to a financial turnaround. The 7 steps to a financial turnaround. So I want us to notice, again, this is still a little bit more context, okay? So let's read these bullet points. Although she was technically asking the prophet for a handout, a what? A handout. A what? A handout. The prophet gave her a hand up, a hand up, a hand up. A handout feeds you for a day, but a hand up will feed you for life. You've heard the saying that if you give a man a fish, you'll feed him for a day. But if you teach him how to fish, you will feed him for life. In this respect, education is more important than gratification. Okay? So education is more important than immediate gratification. See, if I give you a fish, I will gratify and satisfy your appetite for one day. But if I teach you how to fish, I am going to gratify and satisfy your appetite and your family's appetite for life. Education is more valuable than gratification. And you will begin the process of turning around your financial life when you begin to prioritize education over gratification. I wish I had some help in here. You'll always know that you are on the brink of a financial breakthrough when all of a sudden the education, the information, the understanding, the insights, the wisdom becomes more important to you than new shoes, more important to you than a slap-up meal in a fine restaurant, becomes more important to you than accessories designed to make you look like you're making it when you're actually faking it. The minute that you start to value the education over the gratification, you are in the place where God can give you a hand up and not simply a hand out. Now, we saw this in Acts chapter 3, where there was a lame man, lame from birth, at the beautiful gate of the temple, begging for alms. He's begging for charitable donations. And he sees Peter and John coming into the temple at the hour of prayer, and he begs of them alms. And they say, "Silver and gold have I none, but such as I have give I unto thee. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, rise up and walk." So, and then Peter reached down his hand and pulled him up. So he was looking for a hand out, but the apostles gave him a hand up. And with that hand up, his life was changed, his economic status changed, and his economic prospects changed. And he never had to beg again another day in his life because he accepted a hand up. Now, I said that to say this, that God's plan is always going to be a plan to give you a hand up, to make your success sustainable and to change your economic status and prospects for the rest of your life. His plan is never going to be to feed you for a day so that you have to come back tomorrow and beg again, so that you have to come back the next day and beg again. Wow and wow. Stop asking God for handouts. Instead, grab hold of the hand that's pulling you up. I wish I had some help in here. Stop asking for handouts. Stop begging for handouts and instead grab hold of the hand that's pulling you up. You might not know it, but right now there is a hand that's trying to pull you up. You need to grab hold of it and hold on to it tightly because it's going to change your financial destiny if you will let it. Make the transition from being an economic dependent to standing on your own 2 feet as an independent. Now, the hand up involved a 7-point plan that still works today. Are you ready for the 7-point plan? Shout your amen in the chat box. Because if you are ready for the 7-point plan, then that 7-point plan is about to appear. Yes, I'm having fun with my sound effects, so here goes. So step 1 in the 7-point plan is to stop looking outside for answers and instead begin to look inside for answers. Look within. You'll remember Jesus saying that the kingdom of God is within you. The kingdom of God is within you. And so if we're supposed to seek first the kingdom, then we're going to have to look in. If we don't look in, if we don't look within, then we're going to have to go without. Okay, this woman was going to go without if she didn't first look within. So look within. So let's read this, 2 Kings 4, verse 2. And Elisha said to her, "What shall I do for you?" That's his way of saying, stop looking out. Tell me what you have in the house. In other words, start looking in. Conduct a personal audit and assessment on what it is you already have in the house. Why? Because something you already have from God is the key to everything else God has promised you. I want that statement to sit with you. I want it to land with you because it is a game-changing revelation when you realize that God has not left you without and that he has planted in every person the seeds of their own economic redemption. He has not left you without a seed. He has not left you without a key. He has not left you without an opportunity. And something you already have from God is the key to everything else that God has promised you. So stop looking out and start looking in. What do I have in the house? This will bring you to step number 2, which is the law, the principle of recognition. The principle of recognition, it means recognizing the seed potential of the things you already possess. Okay? So in that same verse, she said, your servant has nothing in the house except a jar of oil. Your servant has nothing in the house except a jar of oil. Now, honestly, if I was that jar of oil, I'd have been offended by that, right? I would have been offended because I'd have said, look, everything left you except me, your jar of oil. And instead of focusing on what left, begin to focus on what stayed. That jar of oil was all she could find in the house. Therefore, it was the key to everything else that God had promised her, in her spirit. So I've said here that we take for granted the things that we know or are familiar with. Okay? So this pot of oil was overlooked. It was undermined. It was unappreciated. It was under-recognized. It was not utilized. It was taken for granted. She couldn't even see it, right? It's there, but it's just part of the furniture. It has no value. And what happens when we become familiar with something in our lives is that we take it for granted and fail to realize that what we're taking for granted, someone else may find it extremely valuable. What we know and therefore take for granted and assume everyone knows, there are people out here who don't know and would dearly love to know, and they would value that knowledge. It may be a skill that you have that, again, you've taken for granted, you've overlooked it, not realizing that there are other people who don't have that skill and they don't have the time to learn the skill, but they do have the money to pay someone who does have the skill. And so here we are, overlooking, undermining, undervaluing things that we already possess. But it's important for you to recognize that what you do possess has seed potential. What do I mean by seed potential? Seeds don't look like the harvest that they produce, but the seed is a harvest compressed, and the harvest is the seed decompressed. And the reality is that in that seed, there is a potential harvest. So you now have to look at this thing that you've been overlooking, undermining, undervaluing, unappreciating. You need to look at this thing, whether it's some knowledge and expertise that you have, whether it's a skill set that you have. You need to start to look at this and say, I actually have something. I have something, and I'm not going to call this something nothing. I'm going to call what looks like nothing something, because if I call my something nothing, I'm going to lose the something that I have. But if I call my nothing something, I can make something out of it. Wow and wow. Somebody help me scream. So this brings me to the third step. Okay, so the first step is that you're looking in. The second step is you recognize the value, the seed potential of something small that you possess. Well, here comes step number 3. The prophet said, borrow vessels, borrow vessels. Then he said, go outside, borrow vessels from all your neighbors, empty vessels, and not a few, not too few. So borrowing vessels. Now, again, I guess if I had time, I could really break this down to say that there's so much encrypted in that simple line. Go outside and borrow vessels from your neighbors. Because what that implies is that this woman still had some relational currency. And typically people who are in debt have lost their relational currency because they've begged everyone for handouts. They've begged everyone for money. And when you see them coming, you know that they're coming with a request. When you see their name come up in your phone, you know that they're calling because they want something. And so when a person is operating like a beggar, they typically lose their relational currency. But this woman, even in her poverty, operated with integrity. Even in her poverty, she operated, with a certain integrity that allowed her to maintain her relational currency. Why do I say she had relational currency? I say it because once you're in debt, you typically can't borrow from anyone, okay? But this woman had neighbors that knew her, neighbors that understood the circumstances that had befallen her, neighbors that understood that she had been economically decapitated by the sudden death of her husband with 2 small children. And she was a good enough neighbor that her neighbors would make that investment. Now, I said that to say this, that even if you're down to nothing, you want to be growing your network of high quality relationships. You want to be a friend to as many people as you can. He that would have friends must show himself friendly. And you want to be building your relational currency because your net worth is going to reflect the size and quality of your network. That's one of the principles here. But I want you to notice what the prophet said. He said, borrow vessels. Now, what are vessels? Vessels are containers. Vessels are containers. And he says, I want you to get multiple containers. Multiple what? Multiple containers. Somebody say that with me. Multiple containers. Get as many containers as you can. Do not borrow a few. Do not borrow a few. That brings me to the next principle. Not a few. In the King James, it will say, borrow vessels, not a few. because because in step 4, you're only going to be limited by the size of your imagination and by the number of your containers. Okay? So you're going to need containers, right? Because you're going to have to put your oil into containers, because there's going to be no way to sell it. There's going to be no way to market it if it's not in containers. So what you need is a big imagination. Okay, a big imagination. You want to imagine beyond today's needs, beyond this month's needs, beyond this year's needs, and begin thinking about your life needs. Okay, about how much you're going to need in order to maintain your quality and standard of life for the rest of your life, and then how much you're going to need in order to leave an inheritance to your children's children, and how you're going to affect your own bloodline to the 3rd and 4th generation with a positive economic input. You want to be thinking big. You want to be thinking beyond yourself. You want to be thinking beyond your immediate needs. You want to be thinking beyond your years. So, because you're only going to be limited with this strategy, all that's going to limit you is the size of your imagination. That's all that's going to limit you, the size of your imagination. And number 2, the number of your containers. So what you're going to want is as many containers as you can possibly get. Don't just stop just because, well, it looks like I've got enough. No. Carry on and carry on and carry on, collecting different containers, big containers, small containers, medium-sized containers. You want vessels. You want as many vessels as you can. Anything that can hold oil, you want to get hold of it and get it in your house. Step number 5, shut the door and pour. Shut the door and pour. I love this one. Shut the door and pour, because there are 2 secrets encrypted in this little line. Shut the door and pour. The first secret, okay, is that business, right? Business always has a secret component. Like all successful business has a secret component. All right. Business is done in many cases in secret. There's always a mystery to the business. Now, for example, if somebody is selling oranges and apples and fruit and vegetables in the marketplace, okay, the secret will be the supply chain, okay? The wholesale price that the vendor, that the seller purchased the fruits and vegetables at will also be a secret and a mystery. All right? Because what they're not going to do is come into the market and say, okay, here's these oranges, apples, pears, bananas, mangoes. Here's all these lovely fruits, and here's how much it costs per pound, and here's how much it costs. But by the way, I actually buy it from a farm down the road, and I buy it at about 50% cheaper than I'm selling it to you right now. Okay? If someone were to do that, right, they'd quickly be out of business, because in order to be in business, you're going to have to buy it cheap, right? You have to buy it at a wholesale price. You're going to have to sell it at a retail price, which factors in all the costs that you have incurred in this process, plus factors in your profits. Now, it's very, very important that there's a secret to that. So the prophet says, look, go in and shut the door. Shut the door. Okay, so nobody's going to know this is miracle oil. No one's going to see the miracle of how the oil was manufactured. It's going to be mysterious. Okay, so shut the door behind you and then pour. So what does this mean? It means put your content into containers. Put your content into containers. Okay, so what does this mean? It means, and actually we're going to break this down in a future slide. But if you're going to sell water, okay, you're going to need to put that content into containers so that you can sell the water. And the more containers you have is the more water you can sell. The more containers this woman had is the more oil she could sell. So The interesting thing about the oil, the miracle of the oil, is that it didn't stop flowing until all the vessels were full. And that means that this little bottle of oil that she had the potential to fill every vessel in the world. But she had a limit, and she had a limit. Perhaps it was the size of her network, the number of her neighbors. Perhaps it was the size of her imagination, but this was her limit, and that determined her financial ceiling. So there's a mystery in the oil, and I want to unpack that right now. Because what your oil represents is your experiences in life, your expertise, your enthusiasm, that's your passion, things you're passionate about, your empathy, right? When I say your empathy, I mean the circumstances that you can relate to and understand how people are feeling in those circumstances. So your experiences, your expertise, okay, it's things that you've survived, that's your experiences, things you know how to do, that's your expertise, things you're passionate about, that's your enthusiasm, and the things that you can empathize with, all of that is really your oil, because that's what never leaves you. Those things never leave you. Like everything else can leave you. You can lose your house, you can lose your car, you can lose your job, you can lose all that stuff. But what you're not really going to lose is your life lessons, your life experiences, and what those experiences have taught you. And what you're not going to lose is your ability to identify with a certain group of people, not everyone, but with a certain group of people. So this is really your oil. It represents your life lessons and your personal proverbs. What I mean by your life lessons, I mean that God designed and ordained that life would teach you a particular set of lessons. Those lessons can become a lifeline to others who are still struggling with things that you've survived, or who are still blocked by a barrier that you've already broken through. And that's why God ordained that life would teach you these particular lessons. Your lessons are different to my lessons, and my lessons are different to your lessons. But when I look at my life lessons, I have learned some things, and I've learned them not just by study, but I've learned them by experience. I've learned how to cope with them. I've learned how to manage them. I've learned how to get beyond them, through them. I've learned some things. Okay, life has taught me these things. Now, it doesn't matter what things I lose in life. I'm not going to lose that, because that's my bottle of oil. That's my pot of oil. So I've put here that it represents your knowledge, your skills, and that you take for granted. But if you were to pour your knowledge and skills, your personal proverbs, your life lessons into containers, into what? Into containers like books, like courses, like a podcast, like blogs, like webinars, like events, like I'm doing right now. I'm actually pouring my life lessons into a container that allows you to consume it. That container happens to be a weekly broadcast on YouTube, but I've taken it out of my head and I've put it into a container so that other people can consume it. The reality is that I could have just taken it all for granted. I could have just taken for granted that, yeah, I know a few things about the Bible and I know a few things about business, but that's just what I know, and I'll just work with it myself and just try to get along. I could have done that until God said to me, no. That wisdom that you have, okay, is oil, and it is extremely valuable to people that don't know it, and people who don't have it, and people who need it, people who want it. He began to show me there are millions of people that would benefit seriously from my oil, that would value my oil. And if I put it into the right containers, they might even pay for my oil. And I thought, wow, I realize this now. Here's the secret, right? That you are never down to nothing because your life experiences are oil. You are never without the seeds of your own redemption because your life experiences have become personal proverbs. What do I mean by personal proverb? I mean that King Solomon wrote thousands of proverbs. What is a proverb? Okay? It's an insight. Okay? It's an understanding. It's a sound bite of wisdom that gives you a warning, something to avoid, and gives you a way to obtain the things that you desire, like health, like wealth, like happiness, like peace, okay, like long life. All of these things are contained in his personal proverbs. And I realized that actually my oil looks like personal proverbs to others, right? It looks like insight. It looks like a soundbite, but it is a nugget of wisdom. And it is these very things that never leave you. They never leave you, just like the jar of oil never left the woman. So what is it that never left you is what you have become inside. It's what you know on the inside. It's what you can do on the inside. It's what you can understand and empathize with on the inside. It's what you're passionate about on the inside. But it has to be put into containers, okay, if you're going to experience financial deliverance. So this brings me to step number 6, which is to sell the oil. Sell the oil. What? Sell. What did I say? I said sell the oil. She came and told the man of God, and he said, go sell the oil. Go sell the oil. And what does this mean? It means that with a house full of oil, you can still be in debt. Okay? Her house was full of oil. Every corner of her house had a pot of oil, a jar of oil, a container of oil, big containers, medium-sized containers, small containers. It was all filled with her oil. And yet she still broke as a joke and ready to choke, as my bestie always said, right? This woman is still broke, even though she has so much value around her. And I'm speaking to someone today that is still broke, even though your house is full of value, even though your life is full of value, even though you have all these containers. You've put everything into containers. You've got the books and the ebooks, the songs, the poems. You've got the courses and the trainings. You've got the webinars and the seminars and the masterclasses and the challenges. And you've got, you've got the experiences and the events and the retreats and the special days. You've got all of it. Okay? And all of it just based on your oil, just based on your knowledge, based on your expertise. You have the ability to help a business grow. You have the ability to help a family stay together. You have the ability to help someone become fit and healthy. You have the ability to improve someone's mental health and way of being and state. You've got all this knowledge inside of you. You've now put it into containers, but you're still broke. Why? Because you must sell the oil. And what this means is that unless you learn marketing and sales, you are still going to be broke no matter how much value you have. You may be the best business in the world, but if you are no good at marketing and sales, you're going to be broke, because the market won't even be aware of you, let alone aware of why you should be their first choice. The reality is that we could all do with a course, with a coaching experience, with a deeper understanding of what it means to market, to bring your value to market, and to transact sales. You must go into business. This is effectively what the prophet is saying to her. You must start a business with your oil. Get into the oil business and start a business with your oil. Sell the oil. Sell the oil. Sell the oil. Yeah, sell the oil. Which brings me to step number 7, the final step. Financial disciplines. Financial disciplines. So let's read it. She came and told the man of God, and he said, go sell the oil and pay your debts, and you and your sons can live off the rest. He didn't say go sell the oil and buy a new car. He didn't say go sell the oil and buy a new house. He didn't say go sell the oil and buy new clothes. He didn't say sell the oil and buy expensive accessories. He didn't say sell the oil and go on a luxurious all-inclusive holiday. He said sell the oil, pay your debt. So that means he was encouraging financial discipline. He was effectively saying, look, if you don't deal with the debt issue now, okay, the debt issue is going to plague you for the rest of your life. So you want to break the curse and the cycle of debt, and you want to do that first. You want to get all negative debt out of your life. What do I mean by negative debt? I mean where you are paying for things that don't even exist anymore because you've eaten them. You're still paying for things that don't even work anymore. You're still paying for things that are not worth what you paid for them. Your money is leaving your life. Money is just leaving your life. No matter how much you make, it's like putting it into a bag with holes because it's just leaving your life because you've purchased so many liabilities that you still owe on, and they're not making any money for you. You want to break that cycle. You want to practice some financial discipline that says, look, if I'm going to borrow, I'm only ever going to borrow to buy assets. I'm going to borrow to buy assets. What's an asset? It's anything that's worth more than I paid for it. Anything I could sell tomorrow for more than I paid for it, or anything that appreciates in value over time. Now, that could be company stocks. It could be government bonds. It could be works of art, right? There are so many. It could be real estate. There are so many investments, okay, that will appreciate in value over time. And if you borrow to buy assets, that's good debt. That's good debt. It's just smart business is what it is. Smart business. But you want to break the cycle of negative debt to where money is just leaving your life and you're still paying for things that have lost their value or have already been used. So pay the debts first, then live off the rest. In other words, the prophet's saying from now on, you're going to have a financial budget. You're going to have financial rules. You're going to have financial controls. You are going to have financial priorities. From now on, life is going to be very different for you financially, because from now on, you are going to operate with financial intelligence. You're going to become financially literate. You're going to become commercially sophisticated. You are going to become a master when it comes to money, because you're going to pay your debts. You're going to break the cycle of negative debt. And then you're going to live on the rest, because the rest is your profits. And if you want a new car from your profits, help yourself. If you want a new house from your profits, help yourself. If you want new clothes and accessories from your profits, help yourself. But don't do it from your budget. Don't do it from the cost of your living. And don't do it until you are out of the debt cycle. This is a 7-step plan for financial turnaround. This is a 7-step plan that will take you from the pit of poverty to the pinnacle of prosperity. Ask me, how do I know? I know. I knows it not just from reading it. I know it from doing it. And I know it from the hundreds of people I have helped to do it. It really is the basis for my business consultancy. Is I help people to identify and value their oil, to put it into containers and sell it. Yep, selling your oil. The Spirit-Led Business Challenge was epic. The great news is that we're doing it again. From October 28th to the 31st, a group of no more than 12 entrepreneurs with big dreams and legacy goals will gather for a transformational experience. For 1 hour a day over 4 days, I'll coach and train you live on how to build a business that truly partners with God. You'll learn how to cut a success covenant with God, read the biblical blueprints for business success, access your spiritual intelligence, discover God's guide to purpose-driven prosperity. It's live, practical, and interactive with answers to your real questions. Spaces are limited and it's strictly first come, first serve. And for those who secure their spot, I'm including a powerful bonus, my full spiritual intelligence course worth $1,000 completely free. This is your invitation. Don't miss it. Click the link and register today before it's too late. Hey, I'm Bishop Wayne Malcolm, author, coach, and founder of the Epic Kingdom Network. If you've ever felt like something's missing in what you've been taught about Christianity, you're not wrong. Most of us were taught that heaven and the hereafter are the goal, prize, and sole objective of the faith. But the original message of Christ taught us to engage, to influence, and to transform the world. Believe it or not, Jesus didn't die to get us into heaven. He died to get heaven into us, and then through us into the earth. What if I told you that Christianity was never meant to be a religion, but rather a relationship and a global revolution, a divine intervention, not a man-made institution? The original message and mission of Christ was hijacked, diluted, distorted, and replaced with a religion. My new ebook, Kingdom Theology for Kingdom Citizens, is not just another devotional, it's a call to action, a bold reintroduction to the original message of Christ, a message of dominion, not escapism, of transformation, not tradition. You'll learn what it means to rule and reign with Christ, to steward wealth with purpose, to influence government, education, culture, and business as an ambassador of heaven. This book will shift your lens, stir your spirit, and set you on course with divine clarity. And right now, for a limited time, I'm giving you free access to the digital and audiobook versions. No cost, no catch. Just click the link in the description, grab your copy, and step into clarity.
Hey there, entrepreneurs! If you enjoy the teachings of Bishop Wayne Malcolm, I've got something amazing for you. Introducing the New Breed Community, an exclusive online platform for kingdom-conscious entrepreneurs, professionals, investors, and creators. This isn't just a community, it's a movement where we discuss and explore kingdom concepts. Here, kingdom-minded people connect, share, learn, and grow together. Inside, you'll find exclusive content from Bishop Wayne Malcolm, including special sessions just for members. And the best part? It's free to join. The New Breed Community sits on the Heartbeat platform, where Bishop Wayne Malcolm is excited to meet you online. Join us for weekly Q&A sessions with Bishop Wayne, and get exclusive insights that can transform your life. Love to read? Join our book club to feed your mind and spirit. Got a prayer request? Post it and let's lift each other up. Have a testimony? Share how God's goodness is shining in your life. We're more than just a community, we're a movement. Discover the powerful relationship between your profession and your purpose. Join us now on the Heartbeat platform. Connect with us and let's grow together. Bishop Wayne Malcolm and the New Breed Community are waiting for you. So what are you waiting for? Hit that join button and step into a world of connection and growth. A warm welcome awaits you. See you on the inside.